Oh my goodness. Hey, true. Whoops, wrong one. Hey, fellow film buffs. England Teen here for Extreme Movie Show. With me, of course, is Rob Classic.
Good evening.
And of course, we have the real Dr. Venkman, except no substitutes.
Or RDDV, if you want. It's easier to say.
There you go. So, Contagion Week. We're going to be talking about movie viruses and viruses on the movies. I worked in a movie theater, and I put that ED on the end. Now, we did get a message from AMC saying that everybody who had a job is still going to have a job when they come back, which I heard is not the case for everybody. But yeah, 6 to 12 weeks. So that means everything's scheduled. Could possibly be pushed back for 3 months. That is something.
Well, earlier on the Two Extreme Horror Show, that before in our pre-plan, the doc and I were talking about, what your situation is going to be, because I don't know that we knew it, and it made it difficult for us to sit there and say, hey, what previews are going to be coming out, or can we look at? And then it's like, well, we don't know now because of, to your point, the schedule and how everything is getting pushed.
Yeah, so they're contemplating, do they just delay everything and then, start at scratch, okay, we left on March, do we release those? Of course you don't want to do that, because some of the movies you make for a summer movie and some of them you make for Oscar time and all that kind of stuff. So they're also talking about putting them in to parts of the schedule where it may be weaker, and then also some of them are just going to go straight to streaming services, as some of the ones that had been released right before the world ended are going to streaming service. You can see like the Disney Pixar movie is going to be going there.
Yep.
Already on VOD, The Hunted has been released, as well as Emma. I looked at it, and it's $20 to rent.
A lot of them are $20 to own too.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I know, right? Which I thought, okay, that's bad. That's expensive, but it is the price of about 2 tickets, and your entire family can watch it. So, okay, if you're thinking about it in terms of new movie, I guess it's not a bad deal, but there you go. That's what they're doing now. I don't think
I had saw The Hunt earlier today. It was actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's campy in my opinion, but the writing's really, really awful, because you can see where they really tried to make fun of both sides to it. So it's obviously not a scary movie at all. It's definitely not. It's definitely written politically, but I would not call it a political film. And you could even argue that it's a strong female-centric movie and pro-liberty movement as opposed to Republican or whatever. That being said, I think it's kind of interesting with virus movies, because they make for great movies and they make for great doom and gloom things. But in reality, looking at it from the business side, and we've talked about this before, and I always joked about with 80s films, whether you liked them or not, they knew how to package them in such a way where, as a viewer, you'd be like, yeah, I can't wait to go see this and can't wait to go see that. And so I had mentioned before in our earlier stream when we just started discussing Contagion Week in films is that I'm looking for leadership. And I think that putting movies on video on demand is a step in the right direction. I would like to think that that's how the market's going to go. But with some of the films we're going to be talking about here shortly, I just don't know if ultimately we're going to see any big companies. And I think the answer is no, of course, especially the bigger company, if they're going to use it as an opportunity to try to gain some market share by changing the way they do business. And I would be intrigued, at the very least, as somebody that would love to see more movies, and I always complain to you about how there's no good films anymore, I would like to see some sort of fundamental shift in the nature of the movie business, so that way and we can continue reviewing films, first of all, here on the Extreme Movie Show, but just to kind of have a better experience. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, with them, there's closed. So the way you get movies now is through Vudu, Hulu, Amazon, or Netflix. So any of these paying websites. I wonder if they're going to crack down more on illegal pirated movies now.
Well,
because that's all.
I don't think they can try to.
Well, no, I'm just saying their main income from all these movies, Hollywood now, is through digital. You don't have that physical, but you can't go there and go buy the movie. I don't think it's gonna be released on DVD. Maybe it will, maybe not. Because who's gonna go to Walmart, Ground Zero, to get a DVD? Pay $20 for coronavirus. I don't I don't want to do that. and everybody's so scared to go out. So people are gonna do. They're gonna be getting Netflix. They're gonna be getting Hulu, and if they already have Disney Plus, it comes with a Hulu subscription. You can do the combo package, so you get that. Like I said, I think they're gonna focus more. Well, these are intellectual properties. They're gonna crack down more on piracy.
That may happen if they want to rule the internet.
But
I don't know.
They may not act. They may not, contact you at all. They say, "Hey, you pirated a movie. We'll see you in court." It won't be to they won't contact you after all this is blown over, and then you'll get the thing. Yeah, letter in the mail. You did this. You owe us this money for stealing.
I don't know. Maybe.
Because
one thing though, you mentioned Walmart, and I like something my wife said. She goes, "Are you kidding me? I thought Walmart was sickly and gross before all of this happened." And she's right. You go into Walmart sometimes, it's like, yuck. There's just that feel to it. I don't know. I don't know. I think they are actually. To your point, Rob. I think they will be looking to see if this is a viable option. It might. I don't think they're going to go so much for, say, like the Blumhouse films, which only tend to cost 5 to 10 million and make their money back in the first weekend. Or I don't think they're going to go after their tentpole films like Avengers Endgame. It's that mid-range where there's always a question. I think those movies are going to find homes on VOD a lot sooner and Netflix and stuff like that. That just seems to be the sweet spot for that, because the big money makers in the theaters these past few years have been the blockbusters or the tiny little horror films and such like that.
Yeah, I just think that obviously the bigger the companies, the less leadership you're going to get, especially to your point with the big tent poles. I think though that we're not going to get it. I mean, I'm just being practical about it. I think actually an argument could be made that smaller films that I've had a tendency to enjoy personally might suffer a little bit. But again, if a product's made, it's got to get out. They got to try to maximize how much revenue they think they can get from it and when that's going to take place. So it'd be interesting to see what does happen over the next couple months as well as the summer for it. If this virus keeps up to where a lot of those things are happening out, that's fine. But on a broader scale, having nothing to do with movies, and related to what we're discussing tonight with virus films and their impact on society, is this. Financially, the country hasn't been in good shape for a good 50, 60 years, some would say even longer. And I think that there's quite a possibility that, I have to be a cynic here about it, there's a possibility that people, hopefully, the positive spin would be that people would realize, hey, got to worry about my job, unemployment's going to be higher, I suspect, and as a result, you're going to see less people willing to spend money on movies, because movies to me are just really too expensive, especially for the crap quality you get. But again, if you want to go do it, that's great. But as we've seen so far, I think people are willing to spend that money on a movie, and as an adult, that's fine. But if you really have to tighten yourself up by the bootstraps in your family, maybe this country will get a little bit more fiscally disciplined, not just at the government level, but also as individuals. But that being said, at the first sign of something being good, I think people are creatures of habit. They're going to go right back to it. And so we won't have that window. It's like, we need to have a better product for our customers because less of them are coming in movies. So let's actually try to make a decent movie instead of just a big CGI crap fest. So
unless they think that's what people want. Now, here's the thing. We have a lot of empty theaters out there because of the virus. And I'm thinking we need to talk about the best movies to put out into those theaters during a lockdown, a viral light lockdown, something that would get people to go in and understand. So we're going to be talking about our favorite or some of our favorite movies about contagions, viruses, and so forth and so on.
Absolutely.
Yes. All righty. Venkman, what do you have for us? What would be a good contagion movie for people to watch during their purge?
If you want a lighthearted movie that's contagion, Shaun of the Dead.
All righty.
It's lighthearted. It's straight to the point. It's got a happy ending. So unless you want something, if you want something that's not a happy ending, I would go with Resident Evil.
Resident Evil? Okay. I don't think that's happy pretty much throughout the entire movie, but okay, we'll mention the ending. Alrighty. Would China Syndrome count? I don't even remember that movie.
But of course,
Well, what's talk about China Syndrome there, Rob?
I call it a Chinese virus because it's from China.
Ah,
China.
China.
it's from China. Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Say again.
Go ahead.
No,
No, go ahead. I'm rushing.
What is China Syndrome then? I thought that was. It's obviously not what I thought it was. So go on ahead.
Unless I'm getting it crossed, I don't think that's the nuclear one where it breaks down, because that would not be a contagion. Looks like we might actually have to do a little bit of research for some of these films. So, China Syndrome. Let's look that up. While I'm checking that out, the one I was going to suggest was that, the China Syndrome is the power plant one. Yeah, that's right. That's it. So no to the China Syndrome.
Yeah,
Yep, that counts.
For disaster movies, which we've been talking about covering, but that would be natural disasters. But for me, I'm got one as an example is Cabin Fever. Nice little horror movie.
Okay.
You've got cabin fever. Sorry.
Explain it, sir.
Couple people were going out just to kind of do their young men and women stuff on the weekend, drinking, partying, boozing it up in a little cabin, and the one dude is a bit of an ass, gets totally shit-faced, and he falls asleep outside, and he ends up being the safe one at the end because everybody else ends up having to deal with this contagion, basically. And it's really graphic on how it goes really, really fast. And Serena Vincent's in it. She was a Power Ranger. She was in this movie. Beautiful, gorgeous woman. And to see her just kind of losing it, and the scene where she goes to have relations for the last time with the dopey dude that's there, and what happens to her body while they're doing it is just absolutely disgusting. It's great horror because it's allegedly a real thing that could happen, and it's done well enough. So
yeah, I believe that guy
Underrated.
was the last one because they had a bet that they would drink nothing but beer, and the guy who survived was the guy who lived up to it because the pathogen was in the water. If you drank the water, you got sick. And since all he drank was beer, he survived.
And the flesh-eating bacteria.
Mhm.
Oh, that was. Ugh.
That was a lot
Don't
of
watch this
fun.
movie if you plan on eating afterwards.
Yes.
No, I'm saying if you plan on eating, don't watch this movie.
Or during sex. All right.
true
Or
is
before
that?
sex.
So a movie that I watched that I literally watched I think yesterday, the day before, was Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, Morgan Freeman, Rene Russo, and Kevin Spacey. Back when he was a good actor and we still liked him. But of course, this is one of those where there's a disease in Africa. There's a carrier monkey. He gets stolen and he's sold to the United States to a rare
Disease vector.
Say again.
Always a
Disease vector. Sorry.
There you go.
I have to throw the word vector.
And yeah, and we actually get to watch the spread of the virus. That's actually something that I kind of like about this movie. Of course, seeing as how it is a movie that was played in movie theaters, there is the one where the guy's in the movie theater and he goes, and you watch the germs go from his mouth and fly into other people's and everything like that. So it tries to get people scared with that particular scene. But it's actually a pretty good drama because most of it takes place with the Dustin Hoffman character, who's a member of the CDC, apparently high-ranking because he's yelling at all the high-ranking people as well. Of course, that would have been enough to deal with the virus, but they've got, the evil military man who wants to hide everything. That I think it kind of went weak at. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good look at that kind of stuff. Of course, I'm not a member of the CDC. I can't tell you how accurate it was, but it's definitely dramatic.
Yeah. Again, military bad, big government good. We have all the solutions and all the answers, and I'll yell to get my point across, says Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, that's basically what he does. He doesn't. It's not Al Pacino levels, but he does do that a couple of times here. Yeah. I still like it though. I thought it was pretty good movie. All right. So what else do you have for us, RDV?
I was gonna say, if you want a companion to that, if you really like reading books, read The Hot Zone. It's much more gross.
Yeah, I read it.
So, what else do I have? let's see. Keeping with that, as far as movies that are, I guess, gross. I guess we can go with Planet Terror.
Okay.
Planet Terror.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, nice pick.
That was a zombie flick. We get to see younger Rosemarie Go, and before she went crazy, she plays a
If
stripper.
she
Gets her
ate red
leg.
meat, that might help with some of the chemical imbalances in the brain. I mean, just things happen.
She literally gives her leg for this performance in his movie.
Yeah, she eventually, with the help of some people that were very important to her and love, number one, she was able to get a leg up on the bad guys.
Da-dum-ba-dum-bum-bum.
And of course, the guy dies anyway, so who cares, right?
Right.
I mean, that's how it is.
All righty, your turn, sir.
I'm gonna take a moment to be. Can I be serious for a minute?
Be
Male
Yahoo
fertility
serious
is at
if
an
you-
Surely.
is at an all-time high. Some don't call me Shirley. And listen, I don't know if it's the soy, I don't know if it's the fluoride in the water, but I just know that when I saw Children of Men, I immediately told E, hey, this is a great science fiction film, and they're so rare and don't happen that often that it was a pleasure to watch. And so, yeah, it's basically what it is. It's about most of society's infertile, and Clive Owen's in it. And at this point, I'm peak Clive Owen going, yeah, he should be the next Bond. And there's a great scene in there too where he's trying to escort a woman who somehow got pregnant. I know it sounds weird saying that, but obviously there's something with her that becomes important, and everybody's storming this building for it. But when they hear the baby cry when she gives birth, everybody stops shooting, and that's kind of like the whole thing to it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember going, I like the fact that they tried taking on something big like that, and it has these incredible long tracking shots that I always pop and mark out for. So Children of Men, pretty interesting, but it's British, which might be a good thing for some people. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go TV movie for this one because I liked it. It was, I believe it was 1989. They made The Stand into a movie. It's a Stephen King book. It is, in my opinion, it's like his magnum opus. It's this huge telling. It's basically the story of good and evil, but it's the first half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And the first half of the movie deals with people getting this disease called Captain Trips. I do like the fact that it wasn't overnight. But I just always liked this movie. It was, I always felt that, first of all, Rob Lowe is pretty good in it. I believe it was Gary Sinise who was the lead in this one. I just like the actors. I think they do a good job. It tells not so much about how they deal with the virus medically, but how people deal with the loss that comes about. Of course,
yes.
It's an apocalyptic movie, but I think that's one of the strengths, and it's a different way to go about it, a different viewpoint anyway. And once again, the second half is all about the good versus the evil. After the virus is wiped almost everybody out, now it's time to see who's going to win the world, kind of thing.
Interesting.
Have y'all ever seen it?
Never heard of it.
Oh,
In parts, way back in the day. You were always big on that.
Yeah, I was, and I would still like to say I do remember hearing that they're going to be remaking it for like Netflix or something like that. I think that would be really cool. I'm interested in seeing if they do it as I think they could do it better, as a matter of fact, especially now with modern special effects. Making TV doesn't look as cheap as it did back then. How about you, Venkman? What's another Contagion movie that you've got under your sleeve?
Oh, how about The Crazies?
All righty, how about them?
You can watch the 2010 remake, or you can watch the original 1971 movie.
Both of them are good.
I never saw the original. I saw the remake because I never knew it was a reboot at the time when I saw it. Timothy Oliphant plays a sheriff in a small little farming town where people start going crazy and start killing each other. And it's him and his wife and just two young another couple trying to make your way through out of the town. It is basically like what you'd expect. You got the little the army guard comes in, the coast guard, and they set up the little hospitals. Well, the problem is the one dude's in there. He's in a bed. You see him, and he looks over. There's this person that's basically taking a pitchfork. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. It's a good movie. Like I said, I'm not sure how different it is from the original, but you can find these movies, like, especially it's on iTunes, Vudu, Amazon Prime. You can probably rent it. It's if you have Tubi, the app, through your Roku, you can watch it for free, probably with commercials.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely. I like that movie. I took Gail to see it. I was working at a dollar theater at the time, and it went there. I was like, okay, you got to check this. She loves horror films, so these things that we're talking about are right up her alley. Okay, Rob, one more round for you. What do you have? Or next round, I should say.
A movie that slightly fond of with my boy Charlton Heston called The Omega Man.
Yikes.
Pretty obvious one.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's a bit campy,
I
a bit
didn't even
hammy.
think of it.
I know, right? Well, I mean, the Will Smith one comes to mind, of course, the Vincent Price one, but the first out of all those that I saw actually was the Omega Man back in the day, because Heston was usually on in our house with our family members. Just one of those things, and there's this virus, and the guy's a blood doctor, I think it is, and if they turn into like vampires, and I know that, like, say, the I Am Legend and the Vincent Price one are slightly different, and some of them aren't necessarily as accurate as the book. But again, we're talking movies here, so I would say, yeah, I enjoyed it, liked it a lot. And when I think of these types of things, I go, wow, why weren't a lot of movies made like this back in the day? Well, in the 70s, we talk about, we're getting off the gold standard, and in the United States here, that's when we first got a real big taste of climate warming, climate change, whatever fancy word you want to use to it, and how they made a lot of movies to say, man bad, everything good. And a big part of it was a new area that you would see with genetics and stuff. So I've always kind of had a soft spot in my heart for him and for the movie that did something like it, because it wasn't the 50s atomic, bad, let's make monsters out of it. That's a whole nother conversation. But for ecotourism and those kinds of things, the 70s is where it started, and that's why I kind of also have a soft spot for the Omega Man. Man, I am on fire tonight, and I haven't even had coffee. What's going on, sir?
You're coming up with some good movies. I'm going to go independent on this one. This is it's a movie called Blindness. The cast is not an independent cast. It's got Julianne Moore. It's got Mark Ruffalo in it. The world is that there are people who are just struck blind, and these people are quarantined off in this one building, and the building is surrounded, so they can't escape. And so inside of this building, these blind people are trying to create some sort of society. At the same time, Julianne Moore's character is slowly regaining her sight and begins to starts to see what's going on around them, because they don't know. They've thought they were in a hospital all this time, but what they don't know is that, if they walk out, if they go too close to the fences or anything like that, they're going to be shot. So they try to figure out a way out of this building. And she's actually trying to hide the fact that she has sight, because of course they pull people out and everything. It's a really good movie. It's kind of an odd duck, because it's one of those that I guess they figured, okay, we're not going to make a lot of money on this, so they threw it to video, but it ended up being pretty good anyway. I recommend, if you haven't checked it out, do yourself a favor, especially during the purge here. Yeah. Okay, your turn, V.
It's a little hole in the wall movie, PG-13 movie, came out in 2009, starring Chris Pine.
Oh, I like this one.
It's Carriers.
Yeah.
It's about two brothers, the brother's girlfriend and one of their school friends. They're going to Turtle Beach. And that's where they're going to write out this virus. Basically, it's been spread worldwide, killing most of the population. And the way they counter people who has a guy who has an infected daughter, and the vehicles run out of fuel, and all they're all trying to escape people, because people are just attacking each other. I don't want to spoil too much of the movie. I'm just saying, pick it up. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. it's a small. It's not the greatest film. But it's also not a horrible film. It's pretty good for when it came out. I don't think it ever went to anything but Netflix.
I don't think it made it to theaters either. But it's still a pretty good film. It's on Netflix right now.
I mean, I got currently the box office. It made $5.8 million. So it must have been on. Must have went to the theater, maybe select theaters.
I don't know, maybe. Well, sometimes movies do get that, like they'll be released in New York and in Los Angeles or something like that.
It also has the chick from Coyote Ugly, the main star.
Oh, Peebo Bryson. No, Piper. That's it. He had the right. Peebo Bryson is a '90s singer.
Emily Van Camp is also
not Peebo.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where that name came from.
Emily Van Camp is one of the friends. So.
Okay, no, that's a good pull, man. That is a good movie, sir. Alrighty.
I was just literally going through a couple years ago. I was like, "What's this?" Like zombie. I'm like, "I've never heard of this." And I watch it. I'm like, "It's pretty good."
Okay. So, how about you, Rob? Do you have another disease in you? We're gonna do one more round after this.
Disease in me.
Yeah.
I've got several little ones that I could pick, but one I'm going to mention as a little bit of a stretch, but I think the concept of it is what makes it a bit better than it's being standard fare, and that's a movie that came out in 2014 called It Follows.
Oh,
where a young lady, she meets a dude, they end up getting a freak on, having a little bit of sex, and you go, well, the guy obviously, is it a pump and dump? Is it not a stock scam, but hey, hit it and quit it sort of situation. But the interesting thing about it, and the whole hook, is that, hey, I'm sorry, but this thing's following, and it's like an allegory for like having an STD that can spread, and you can just see how it constantly comes at you. And it's one of the first movies, and actually only movies, even though I'm an older gentleman, that made me go, yeah, that's fun. I actually am thinking about what it's like to have relations with somebody and end up getting an STD with it. And I really liked how you take a concept like that, and instead of it being an actual STD, because frankly, who's going to care about the herbs or something? But you do it in this kind of way that makes it an intriguing movie that's kind of done in the '80s horror style, like Carpenter and whatnot too. And I thought it was pretty interesting walking from it, because it's not something you can escape. And that's where like a Halloween was, the rest of the stuff kind of turned into a slasher movie. It wasn't about him being a slasher; it was about a force of evil and everything. And of course, that degraded. But yeah. I thought that's kind of good. It's a little bit of a stretch for what we're talking about, but I wanted to.
I don't know. It is a sexually transmitted disease, and like you said, that's the analogy they're going for, and I think they nailed it. One of the best parts about it, and they show it to you, is that it might not kill you right away. It walks really slow.
Yes.
It comes after you. That movie is one of the most perfectly put together films. It might not be the scariest movie. Like if you walk in and you think, oh, I'm going to watch me a scary movie, it might not work on you because you're looking at it wrong. This is more the kind of horror of every day that's going on right here. But still, every camera trick, every person you see walk by, everything seems to be in position to show you that this is a creature you will never get away from.
Yes.
And if you decide to enjoy the pleasures of the flesh, you will only pass it on to other people. I thought it was an incredible film. That is a really good pull. I think you nailed it right there. I think it's a little bit better than the one that I'm going to come up with, even though I think the one I'm talking about is a better movie, and that's The Planet of the Apes. And you know what? I might as well just include the Planet of the Apes trilogy. The Planet of the Apes. The reason why his name? Caesar. The reason why Caesar gets smart is because James Franco's character is trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's, and because his father has Alzheimer's, and so he keeps working with the ape. He keeps working with Caesar, and so Caesar becomes intelligent, but he also inadvertently creates a virus that makes people get stupid. And we see that happen in the third film. In my opinion, those three movies are a perfect trilogy. As perfect as you can get anyway. I enjoy The Planet of the Apes. I think it's a great rise. I think it would have been an interesting story even without the disease. but you do need a way for people to die off, because otherwise we just show up in tanks and planes and they're dead. But yeah, good times, good movie. All right, one more round there, Venkman. What do you have for us?
Infestation. This movie came out in 2009. It's a horror comedy movie.
Okay.
This stars if anyone's ever watched The Girl Next Door, this is the one that wanted to be the porn director.
Oh,
yeah. This is Christopher Marquette and Brooke Nevin. Basically, what happens is a guy who was a telemarketer ends up getting fired because he slacks off and all. He wakes up 4 days later in a cocoon, and I was webbing around him at his desk. He goes out and basically learns out that basically bugs have been basically taken over the rest of the world almost. It's a city here, and they're turning people in. The people who are getting injected by some of these bugs are turning into giant spiders themselves. They're mutating. It's basically a horror comedy because it's a guy who doesn't have a girl, ends up saving a hot girl, gets a girl at the end. Also takes on giant spiders with explosives and shotguns. It's by Icon Films. Definitely check it out. It's like I said, they're not A-list actors in here. Yeah. But I thought it was, for what it did, is actually pretty good.
You had me at spiders.
I believe it's just Ray Wise is in here too as well. Yeah. He's from Twin Peaks. He's also in 24. He played the president in 24.
Okay. What you're talking about? Yep.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's another movie I found on Netflix a while back. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but I'm sure you can find it in place if you look at it hard enough.
Okie dokie. So what do you have for us? What's your final verdict there, Rob?
I'll go with the original, but I can always go with the sequel. We covered the third one on about a month or so ago before the coronavirus picked up. And it's the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. For me, that was the first exposure as a kid watching something on TV that I had no idea what the hell was going on. So it wasn't something like, oh, the Mummy or Dracula or a creature kind of scare thing, when you're young. This is more of a, what the hell? This is how nature can work, or what's going on? Had no clue what it meant. And it just terrified the crap out of me that things can be like that in nature. And the hive mind concept too, of course, we've talked about a little bit. But I think, of course, the one in the 70s, I think I saw first. And it kind of creeped me out. Don't know if it would today, but it's different. It's not too preachy. It's not too whatever. It's just shit's going on. And ultimately you got to try to stay awake and not go to sleep, and things happen when you do. And it's just very unnerving. And to me, I like the original type of movie to do this. I may be wrong on that, but I give credit to the writer. I forget who did it. I just thought it was fantastic. And so whenever a movie like that kind of comes up, I'm always interested in it. And of course, being older, we know that what's going on and all that, so the scare goes away. But like, Doctor said before about one of his movies, it's how you deal, or, how you deal with a loss, or how do you deal with certain things. And that's the excuse. You got to have that vector involved, that MacGuffin or whatever you used to call it, where it just allows us to see what really happens. So yeah, I think if it comes in terms of actual movies to watch, I don't see how anybody who likes film can't watch The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm not going to say they're going to love it, but to me, it's one of those I would say is required viewing. Yeah,
I agree. It's a really good one. I've seen all of them, by the way. Yeah, you got Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland. Then it was remade with Gabrielle Anwar from in the 90s, and then it was made with Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman in the 2000s. And that one, I believe, was just called Invasion. It's a really good story to tell. I appreciate it. I would, before I go on to mine, like to mention Ed Brewer's pick, which is Osmosis Jones, which is a family movie. This one has Bill Murray, who picks up a disease he thinks is just the flu, and he takes a pill, and so you have, basically it's an animated film where inside his body a white blood cell is teaming up with the capsule Drix, and they're going off to try to find the flu and kill it. It's, I think, a very clever animated film. It does mix live action as well, so you do get some good Bill Murray scenes. But I could see why it didn't make a lot of money, or it wasn't the big hit that I think it should have been, because it does deal with some gross elements. But I think it's far better than it's given credit to. Good pull on Ed Brewer. But the movie that I was going to end, because what we're experiencing right now is fear, a lot of it. I get a lot of flack because I say that people should be responsible, yet they should be allowed out of their head. Right now, hashtag close Florida is trending, and I'm way against that. Do I think people should act responsibly? Absolutely. I think you should really take care. That being said, nobody should be forced in their homes. I don't think anybody should be forced to shut down their business. I just don't agree with that. I don't believe in that. I believe in the individual freedom. I see it slipping away here because it's a lot easier to give away than it is to get back. That being said, the movie that just embodies this particular fear that we're feeling right now is it was billed as a horror film, but it's not your typical horror film. And the fact that there's no jump scares. It's a movie that it's called It Comes at Night, starring Joel Edgerton. This is about a family who they're survivalists. We are shown that something has happened, and we are shown that this family knows how to survive. They've been catching their own food. They've been taking care. They've got almost like a fortress as a house right now, and they never go out at night. Well, they meet up with some people, and against Joel Edgerton's better judgment, he lets him in. And at first, everything is okay, but then things start going a little crazy, and they start getting a little more paranoid. And we're never told what happens. We're never shown a monster. We're never said like, this is what happened. So this is not so much a oogie boogie, we're going to get you kind of movie as it is. This is the kind of lifestyle you make for yourself. This is the kind of fear you feel when you're going through something like even the coronavirus right now. With all the panic, with all of that kind of stuff that's going on right here. Once again, it's a slow burn movie. If you go in thinking you're going to get Jason X or something like that, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go in with the thought that you are now living it, you are now, and in some cases, we may actually be forced to live it, I think you're going to get a little bit more out of it.
I saw this not too long ago because it was something that came up when three of us were talking about possible films to see or hidden gems, that type of thing. And I agree with you. I think it's a very good film. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Mm-hmm. But it's also my kind of film. When you talk about slow burn, I generally, between us, I like those and you don't. Yep. But I mean, not that we don't, but that's just what my preference for it. And yeah, it is, because it's exactly, it's not over the top. It's not silly. It's not goofy. It's not, once we find a cure, we'll be fine. It's like, it's a lot harder to, deal with the here and now to try to get to that, special place where you might be fine and okay. And that's what makes it a little bit more horrific than just, an action thing or something. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a good movie. We don't know what it is. But again, against better judgment, it's hard to say that. And,
yep.
Without saying anything, you see what happens. It's a good film. It's worth a watch.
And there you go. So there you go, gang. We not only talked a little bit about what's going on around us, we gave you a few good Contagion movies to watch during the purge here, the pandemic, and the forced, sometimes in some cases, forced isolation. So let us know what you think in the comments. I'd like to thank everybody for putting in their 2 cents. Dave, who says Last Man on Earth. Of course, I talked about Osmosis Jones. Jim Sorensen's bringing up War of the Worlds, and thankfully we're not Martians. And thank you guys. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Y'all have a good time. Enjoy. And stay extreme.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick, an announcement.